Welcome to our team presentation for iTech 6900 Fall 2020 at Middle Georgia State University. Our presentation of a review of Middle Georgia State University's password management policy is brought to you by Tyron Brooks, Marcia Hawk, Sarah Kuang, and Allison Montagne. Introduction. In a rapidly evolving and technology-driven world, technology and data security have become a top priority for many organizations. Technology innovations with massive computing capabilities and information have grown at unprecedented rates, along with the possibility of exposure to data and security breaches. Clement noted the increased use of digital files and organizations' reliance on digital data have increased their vulnerability to breaches. Even though data breaches happen before the digitalization of information, the digitation of data has pushed data breaches to new levels as the volume and importance of the data being exposed have increased considerably. The number of data breaches and the number of records exposed in the U.S. reached record levels in 2018, with nearly 471 million records exposed. Background. Security and data breaches are a growing and costly epidemic which requires organizations to continuously review and revise their security policies to protect their technology and digital assets. Amongst different industry sectors, the Privacy Rights Clearinghouse noted that the education sector had the highest percentage of breaches. 36% of those breaches were attributed to hacking or malware classification where an outside party accessed records via direct entry, malware, or spyware. 30% were the result of unintended disclosure, where sensitive information was inadvertently made publicly available on a website or sent to an unintended recipient via email or fax. 17% of the reported breaches were due to the loss of a portable device, like a stolen laptop or memory device. The number of records exposed through higher education breaches were less than those of other industries. However, security breaches can place institutions at risk for disruption of services to administrators, faculty, staff, and students, not to mention cost. Attacks such as ransomware can cause both human and technical weaknesses that make critical data and/or systems inaccessible. A 2019 public service announcement by the FBI cautioned that more targeted, sophisticated, and costly ransomware attacks have increased significantly. IBM reported the average cost of a data breach to be $3.8 million, with 63% of these data breaches attributed to weak passwords. Another study showed that 60% of people use the same password across multiple websites, and a second study determined that 90% of employees' passwords can be cracked. Among those breaches, malicious attacks were found to be the most prevalent and expensive cause of breaches to organizations, with the chance of an organization experiencing a data breach within 2 years increasing to 29.6% in 2019 from 27.9% in 2018. Post-secondary institutions process and maintain a variety of information about their stakeholders, like administrators, students, faculty. Beyond admissions, enrollment, grades, faculty, and staff information, the management and storage of some information must adhere to federal guidelines, like the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA, and the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA. FERPA is a federal law that protects the privacy of student education records. The law applies to all schools that receive funds under an applicable program of the U.S. Department of Education. Similarly, HIPAA privacy rule requires institutions to protect individuals' health records and other personal health information they maintain or transmit. Password uses and risk. Passwords allow technology and information users to authenticate access quickly and securely. They are the first line of defense for securing most electronic information, networks, servers, devices, accounts, databases, files, and more. As a result, passwords remain the most utilized form of authentication to access computing and information systems. While passwords are the least secure mode of authentication, the simplicity of entering a textual password is the main advantage that the textual password-based authentication method offers compared to other authentication methods. But password uses are not without their risks. In 2014, 2 out of 3 breaches involved attackers using stolen or misused credentials. Not surprisingly, compromised passwords are considered the main cause of security breaches. To mitigate the risk of security and data breaches, organizations should consider integrating best practices in password management policies. Emerging and best practices. Emerging and best practices have evolved for password management in the last 20 to 30 years. When computers first came into existence, companies were unaware of how easy it was for hackers to breach into their systems because their technology was not yet advanced. Information was shared without any rules or laws in place until the first password breach. There is a saying that one person ruins it for everyone. In the case of businesses, hospitals, universities, and large corporations, the concern for information being taken due to weak password policies eventually became a top priority. While security is a high priority for organizations, convenience plays a significant role in password management. There are steps that organizations are taking to encourage users to adopt best practices for password management. Users are made aware of how their information is being used if passwords are breached, and the consequences of their information being stolen indefinitely. This persuades them to act with more security. Do more than just make users aware of the importance of the account for which they have to manage a password by making them also understand the negative consequences of poor password management. Users must feel a personal loss if the account is compromised. It's not just a concern for the organization if there is poor password management, but also for their employees. Emerging best practices should include policies that reduce the risk of security breaches, save users time, and reduce the frustrations of maintaining multiple passwords. Most users are willing to compromise convenience if it ensures password security. However, there is usually frustration when users cannot remember their passwords, or it becomes a hassle for them to keep track of that information. This has led to the practice of implementing an enterprise single sign-on solution, which eliminates the need for users to remember multiple passwords. Users are more likely to trade convenience for security if they have to remember only one password. Single sign-on allows users to use a single password that allows access to enterprise-wide information systems. Though this is not advised for all organizations, single sign-on is most useful when managing passwords for enterprise-wide information systems. Organizations that are unable or unwilling to utilize single sign-on security can simply have users write down their passwords in a safe place and save it somewhere it cannot be deleted or found. If single sign-on is not available, allow users to write down their passwords if they put the notes in a safe place, according to Tam, Glassman, and Vandenwaver. This password management system is used for companies who may not have advanced systems and are unable to implement single sign-on. Perhaps their information is very sensitive and private, therefore making it difficult for hackers to obtain the information. Another practice in password management is password aging, which requires users to change their passwords on a scheduled basis. For example, users might be required to change passwords every month, 2 months to 6 months. This security policy makes it challenging for hackers to keep up with and is therefore an effective way to keep information safe. Biometric authentication is a new and emerging authentication management system that companies are utilizing for privacy purposes. Instead of using a password, biometric authentication uses an individual's fingerprint or facial recognition to log on to their devices or accounts. Apple, Android, and Windows all use fingerprints and facial recognition as authentication options. Whether individuals are logging into their computers or phones, this system is unique and much more challenging for hackers to breach. However, if one were to purchase a new device, then the device owner would have to start the process of creating new identification. Facial recognition is also an emerging method of authentication, though less frequently used by organizations. As companies progress, this new and innovative technology will not only be used for products and devices, but for specific websites and applications. This, however, will take a few more years of research and study to perfect, ensuring user-friendly and safety features. Having solutions that require individuals to manually incorporate best practices may work efficiently. However, there are more advanced systems that also promote better password management. Another way in which a significant password benefit can be obtained is with the use of password managers, applications programs that act as a vault in storing users' usernames and passwords. Password management tools. In today's world of information technology, the most common technique for user authentication is the use of a password. However, most organizations today are lacking when it comes to the security because they do not utilize password management. To address the problem of poor password hygiene and password management, some organizations are adopting password management solutions to address one of the biggest challenges in password management, which is the ability for users to actually remember their passwords. Organizations may benefit from a password management solution that provides secure and encrypted password management across their organization. Password managers are solutions that are used to maintain massive number of passwords and account information for an organization. Many businesses are not even aware about the idea of a password manager. Password authentication mechanisms mostly involve trade-offs between security and usability. When users are forced to create long, complex, and randomly generated passwords, they are more likely to write them down in not a safe place or just simply forget them. One of the main advantages of password managers is their ability to store logon information for different types of accounts that a company or organization might have and automatically enter them into form fields. This aids in preventing attacks from hackers such as keystroke logging, and it also helps stop the need to remember multiple passwords. Password managers allow the use of strong and special passwords with unique characters for each account and provide an efficient way to manage all the passwords. All the login information is encrypted and stored in either the cloud storage or a local memory of the user's system. Mobile password manager applications that are installed in a mobile device can also be used to maintain and remember passwords anywhere and use them on all connected devices. Password managers typically incorporate some additional features such as automatic password generation and automatic form filling. The automatic password form filling feature automatically fills in the log information for a particular URL whenever it loads and thus decreases manual errors and protects the system from hackers. As most password managers can identify the right URL for a particular logon ID and password pair automatically, they are more than capable of protecting private information from phishing sites. The automatic password generation features are not always utilized in all password management applications. It helps to create strong, unique, and random passwords for each account in the system. Utilizing password managers will help an organization in many ways. One reason a password manager is a great choice is that they do not allow the simplicity of passwords, which often allows the security of the account holder to be breached without much effort. Password managers force users to make strong, complex passwords that are both secure and rememberable. Another reason is password managers remember users' passwords and it will make it available across multiple devices. A password manager also can create and generate secure users' accounts by generating and storing security questions. This is an important feature since even a strong password without a security question makes it very simple for hackers to reset passwords. Although password managers are a great solution to the security of a company's information, there are some downsides. One downside includes the system itself's vulnerabilities. In some instances, Windows has stored passwords or valuable information in a clear text file in the memory. Underlying infrastructures have the possibility of being compromised. If a user forgets his master password, the user will lose access to every password that he or she has saved in the system. And apparently no one can retrieve them for the user, not even the vendor. Another downfall is that it is only as strong as your main password for the vault, according to Hoxha. A single point of failure is also a downside to password managers, which makes this a highly desirable target that comes with a high payout if one can get in. Multi-factor authentication. According to the National Institute of Standards and Technology, multi-factor authentication is an enhancement in security that allows users to enter two pieces of credentials or factors in order to gain access to a user account. These two credentials must come from two different security categories to be considered multi-factor, and this is also used to increase security standards. The current security categories that NIST lists are something the user knows, like a password, something the user has, like a bank card, and or something the user is, like biometrics. The idea is that using more than just a password alone can deter or even prevent hackers from accessing a user's most sensitive information through the user account. The use of multi-factor authentication is on the rise due to the realization that single-factor authentication using only a password leaves accounts more susceptible to unauthorized access by using multiple types of attacks. Multiple user accounts can be at risk since many will use the same password across various platforms. This enables the hacker to gain access to multiple types of user accounts and sensitive information. The NIST recommends using MFA with every account if possible, and especially with accounts that house sensitive data such as financial and health records. Even though this type of security is much stronger than only using a password alone, it does not guarantee that security breaches will never happen. There are some challenges involved in successfully implementing multi-factor authentication. Amitabh states that user acceptance is a critical aspect for the adoption of strong identity and multi-factor authentication. Their article states that many user factors can contribute to simply getting through the authentication process. User age and cognitive ability can also play a significant role in this process. A study conducted by Nicholson, Coventry, and Briggs concluded that older users could take up to 50% longer to get through the authentication process. This can be due to the younger generation having more access and experience with technology. While multi-factor authentication policies are becoming commonplace, single sign-on is seen as a viable policy for some organizations. Single sign-on. The use of single sign-on is on the rise due to the desire to ease user access by reducing the amount of time and effort required to log into multiple platforms. Its use can increase security and reduce support calls. Single sign-on achieves this by allowing users to enter existing login credentials, usernames, passwords, only one time to gain access to multiple enterprise applications. This increases usability and can decrease user agitation since there is less burden on the user to remember multiple logon credentials. This is important to note since most users are familiar with the standard username-password combination and may find the use of multi-factor authentication across multiple platforms as an undesirable process. However, many single sign-on services use multi-factor authentication, but the user will only need to complete the authentication steps once. Single sign-on adoption will also improve security of the data and platforms users are accessing. According to Eisen, this type of security tool was created with the hopes that users would create stronger passwords that are memorable to avoid frequent, weak password changes. The use of single sign-on systems also has the potential to strengthen web authentication while largely retaining the benefits of conventional password-based authentication. The use of single sign-on will also reduce the amount of support or help desk calls since the user now has only one password to remember across multiple platforms. Findings. A review of literature on password management and Middle Georgia State University's password security policy shows that Middle Georgia State University would benefit from an enhanced security policy that would provide higher levels of security and reduce the possibility of breaches. Recommendations. Some of our recommendations include the acquisition of a password management tool to accommodate changing demographics such as older faculty, administrators, staff, etc. To also implement single-factor authentication. Here are our recommendations for password rules for SFA. We would also recommend implementing multi-factor authentication to require password and token authentication access to any system or application that requires a unique logon to access information at the university. Here are our recommendations for password rules for MFA. Conclusions. A review of the literature on password management revealed the critical need to protect Middle Georgia State University's digital and technology assets. Middle Georgia State University serves over 8,000 students, and like other organizations, service continuity is a critical thing to maintaining MGA's mission to serve its students, faculty, and staff. At the core of information and technology service continuity is a strong password management policy to protect the institution from security breaches, disruption, and unnecessary costs. On the next few slides, please see our references for this presentation and paper. Thank you.